Five Nights at Freddy's. Take one good look at my channel, and take a wild guess at what my main interest is. FNAF is one of the most important games, not only to me, but the entirety of the gaming horror space. With 2024 marking the 10-year anniversary for the franchise, it seems like now would be as good a time as ever to hopefully start a new series on the channel, where we'll take a look at all the games. I say hopefully based on the assumption the YouTube algorithm will bless me, and you, dear viewers at home, have it in your hearts to at least keep this video running in the background. This series will also give me a chance to replay the franchise I practically built my life around. Hey, it sure would suck if I did this video only to find out I never really liked the game. First things first, just how did FNAF come to be? Meet Scott Cawthon. Scott before 2014 was no more than your average cashier at Dollar General. You know, the place where you go for one or two items, then leave with something weird on your arm.
I was shopping online!
Scott had a total of 3 bosses, all of whom were still in high school, and even before that, he worked at Target in the backroom's freezer, unloading all the frozen food. It's safe to say Scott had a challenging yet respectable life, working hard to support him and his family. Whenever he wasn't doing anything job-related, he spent time working on Christian-based video games. Some of his more popular works were The Pilgrim's Progress, along with The Desolate Hope. Unfortunately, the games did not prove to be all that profitable, so Scott moved to non-Christian games that were more simple to free mobile titles, which would generate him an extra $40 to $50 a month. Even after all that, it still would prove to be unsustainable, with one mobile in particular going on to be the straw that broke the camel's back. Everyone, brace yourselves for Chipper & Sons Lumber Co. Huh? Yes, that's him, officer, the one with the bad reviews. Alright, so the idea of people bashing on this game because the designs are scary genuinely confuses me. Look, I'm not saying it's perfect, like it could be a PS5 game, but have you guys seen what a bad looking game, well, looks like? The criticism of how the background characters looked weird because they resemble animatronics is neat and all, until I tell you a fun fact in that these are animatronics within the game. Them having any sort of fear factor is purely from a subjective standpoint. Didn't matter though, because with the failure of Chipper & Sons Lumber Co., Scott almost quit game development, with his final attempt being between 3 choices: either a whole new game in the Desolate Hope series, a remake of his first game, Legacy of Flan, or a whole new franchise taking all the negative feedback from Chippers to his advantage. Okay, so I think I know which one he chose. In all seriousness, FNAF was picked because it was a smaller game to develop. Something like another Desolate Hope game would have taken time Scott didn't have. And it goes without saying, that was the right move, especially when you consider the timing. It's 2014, Let's Players Online were loving only the scariest of scary games like pizza.
Oh no, the pizza! Where did the pizza? Oh wait, it's right there, okay.
The audience watching their favorite creators were also getting a kick out of it. But the thing was, with all the constant uploads from many different YouTubers, most of the games they were playing started feeling samey. That's when June 14th rolled around with an upload from Scott Cawthon's YouTube channel of a trailer to a game he called Five Nights at Freddy's. This video that's a little over 30 seconds was able to stand out from a crowd, making people more than excited to play it once it released. Not enough to support the Kickstarter. To be fair, it was cancelled by Scott himself after 3 days. If anyone watching was a Scott Cawthon fan before FNAF, I would genuinely be so curious to hear your thoughts about seeing the man go from this to this. Anyway, I've stalled long enough. How is the game itself? FNAF's gameplay, while simple, is incredibly addicting and takes time to get good at. It's a point-and-click survival where you, the player, assume the role of the night shift guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria and must survive for how long? 7 nights. During the actual in-game hours, you'll be working from 12 AM to 6 AM. The main issue you'll be facing is the killer mascots who sure do love roaming around the building and getting close to your office. I bet you could say they get a bit strange at night, a bit silly even, heck, maybe even quirky. The player is guided with a voice message for the first couple of nights by what the fandom calls the phone guy, who is voiced by the creator, Scott Cawthon. Okay, so this part is in the script, but I don't know where else I could talk about this. One time I heard about Scott Cawthon picking the voice actor for phone guy and picking out some random dude, but now that I think about it, he probably was just lying. The phone guy provides great context for what you're able to do that doesn't spoil exactly what's to come, instead providing solutions to general problems you'll be facing. What's there to spoil? These silly little things. Each animatronic has their own way of getting into your office, and right now, I like to focus on them on a gameplay standpoint. I'll be sure to talk about the crew in more detail later. On your first night, your main foe will be Bonnie, making his way from the left side, with a small chance of Chica and even rare chance of Foxy being on the move. Speaking of which, when night 2 rolls around, not only is Bonnie more aggressive, but Chica starts making her way from the right side. As for Foxy, he's located in his own area called Pirate's Cove. It's an area you'll have to check in every now and then because Foxy goes through his 4 stages, getting ready to charge from the left side. Stage 1 is where you're the most safe as he isn't active at all. Stage 2 is when he shows sign of activity by peeking out. Stage 3 is where he's out of the curtains and fully active, requiring you to check on him the most because it leads to Stage 4 where, well, you could take a wild guess what happens at Stage 4. Sucker! Alright, Freddy! Night 3 ups the difficulty of all the previous characters, along with adding Freddy, who attacks from the right side, except what makes him different from Chica is that Freddy hides within the shadows, making it difficult to know exactly where he is. He never appears within the door lights, so your best bet when he's right outside your office is to either keep the door closed or keep your camera on Freddy's location. Night 4 and onward only ups the difficulty, with Night 5 in particular given a unique voice message from Phone Guy that's a continuation from the previous night going, haha, silly Scott, that isn't how you word. These are the characters you'll be seeing most in the game. However, if you know anything about anything, you'll know about Yellow Bear. Yellow Bear is a secret animatronic that has a rare chance of appearing within your office by checking Cam 2B and pulling down the monitor if you see his face replace the poster that's normally there. Once in the room, failing to pull up the monitor will result in a jump scare. Worst part of it all is that you won't get taken to the game over screen, instead the game will flat out crash. That's how the characters function within the title, and honestly, I have nothing but positive things to say about how they operate. To this day, I don't feel safe around Freddy or Foxy with how they can get in your office at any point if you aren't quick enough to counter them. Bonnie and Chica still enforce anxiety the closer they get to your room. And Yellow Bear, well, he can be completely avoided, but I like to f around and find out with him. The way I've described all the characters makes it seem like you're helpless within your office. As I've sprinkled throughout, however, within your tiny space, everything you need to survive is present. Both your left and right side have their own door and light button. The light will show anything that's right outside your room, while the door will keep whatever is there out. If nothing's within your area, you can pull up the camera system and select where to look out of the 11 rooms shown. 10, make that 10. These cameras are important for keeping track of all the Fazbear gang, which makes it all the worse whenever you're eyeing on a character, then the camera glitches out to an empty room. Keep in mind, you also have power that needs to be managed. The resource management element of FNAF I adore as I feel it elevates the game to a new level of fear. Every mechanic, if you don't know how to use, will only serve as something to keep you safe temporarily. It's the fear of only stopping the inevitable that creates an experience that can at least keep me at the edge of my seat, even if it's 5 AM, I have plenty of power, and both doors are closed. Unless 6 AM was right around the corner, if you lose all the power or let the Fazbear crew in your office, it's game over. I will say the result of losing being a jump scare is the weakest point, as everything leading up to it is much more impactful than the payoff. Then again, it's hard to make a jump scare more than a simple for 5 seconds, to which afterwards you kind of just move on with your life. Oh right, the jump scare audio is a woman giving birth to an alien. If my earlier discussion about losing power filled you with dread, then consider listening for audio cues. Audio cues are an excellent addition, adding another layer to the gameplay. Not only do they drive up the fear factor, providing a tension experience, but certain ones can be helpful for determining the location of some of the animatronics. Examples are hearing pots and pans indicating Chica's in the kitchen, while another is Freddy's laughing, implying he's moved to a different location. These perfectly complement the resource management element of FNAF, letting players rely on those audios instead of mindlessly wasting power checking around to find one of the characters. The sound design as a whole is so beneficial to the gameplay side that a skilled player could use it to get pretty far into the game without ever using the cameras. Well, except for Foxy. That aside, it brings me back to the start. Everything is simple to understand, but requires skill to master, and for that, it should be no shocker if FNAF blew up the way it did, and even after 10 years, the mechanics are still engaging. While yes, the gameplay is strong enough to keep a player invested, what would that be worth if the environment and characters weren't there to complete the package? Luckily, Five Nights at Freddy's succeeds in both elements. First, I like to quickly cover the setting, which is a pizzeria. That kinda seems like a no-brainer for a game like this. I mean, imagine making a game with an interesting enough concept only to have it all take place in the office. People say the FNAF economy is gonna crash with a price like this. As previously stated, you'll be working at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, a magical place where kids and no. Take one look at your office, or anywhere really, and you'll realize the place has definitely seen better days. The webs, empty cups, crumbled paper, along with the low-tech nature of your equipment, serves as a constant reminder of just how run down the place is. In some ways, the place feels abandoned. On the security cameras, you'll notice plenty of areas covered in darkness, plus hallways illuminated by flickering lights. These elements, I'd say, are perfect to immerse the player within the world of Freddy's, because there's just enough information on the screen to still question what might be lurking in the shadows. It sorta reminds me of the liminal space phenomenon the internet had for a while. Now, I wouldn't say that word fits the bill for describing the game exactly, instead something that FNAF has elements of. An example is how as the security guard, it'd be a given you're the only person there, yet the absence of people inevitably creates the feeling of loneliness. This is further pushed by the drawings that can be found around the place, indicating that people were here. Again though, as the security guard, we're left with what's meant to be an innocent location, now with an eerie vibe due to the loneliness of it all. On paper, that sounds like a good thing. You should be the only living thing in that building. You hope you're the only living thing there, but we all know you're not. Now is a good time to talk about the Fazbear Band. The Fazbear crew strike an amazing balance between both being realistic enough to be performing in front of kids, along with being horrifying to witness after hours. Being clearly based on Chuck E. Cheese characters, it's still impressive how Scott was able to look at that and naturally come up with 3 designs, as he stated within an interview hosted by Dawko. Not only was the design process generally smooth, but naming them too. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy were all just nicknames thought of in the moment while designing them that were gonna be changed at a later point. Scott then found himself growing fond towards it, creating the iconic designs and names we know now. Speaking of which, let's go over the characters in more detail and how they bring their own type of horror. Freddy Fazbear is the leader of the group. He's one of the first things you see when booting up the game, and boy, what an introduction. These images of Freddy are great in setting you up for what you're about to go against. One of these images in particular has always stuck out to me, where his head is off, revealing an endoskeleton. It's the most notable to me because it's a creepy reminder that what you're defending yourself against is a metal endo at the end of the day. A haunted one for sure, but still an endo nonetheless. Within the actual game, I've always loved the contrast Freddy has between performing on stage and hunting the player down. On stage, Freddy is front and center, being more than visible. However, when in hunt mode, it's the complete opposite, with his camera renders showing him in a different light. No pun intended, since he's now more mysterious behind all the shadows. It's these screenshots of Freddy that remind me of why he's my personal favorite. That is not to say someone like Bonnie isn't high up there as well. Bonnie the Bunny is purple. For those unaware, it's been a debate within the FNAF community whether Bonnie is purple or blue, and my stance on the matter is that FNAF 1 Bonnie is more purple than blue. The only reason for him appearing more blue in other media is because Scott thought it looked cool. Geez, do I have nothing better to talk about? Oh right, Bonnie's motto is able to be most appreciated because, unlike Freddy, who is hidden, Bonnie enjoys being a lot closer to the camera, creating imagery that provides a good scare. The one where he's in employees only and goes up to the camera is still unsettling to me. He isn't the only one who has creepy renders though, as Chica also has her moments. Chica the Chicken has her own eating theme and even comes with a cupcake in her hand that has always made me wonder. Whenever Chica leaves the stage, she doesn't bring the cupcake with her. So does she leave it on the stage? If that's the case, then there's a high chance of this render of Freddy alone on stage actually having the cupcake sitting down below. Now, I'll be the first to say this information does in fact have as much worth as the FNAF Security Breach Collector's Edition. So getting back on track, Chica provides a different sense of terror by not being too far or too close to the cameras, instead being perfectly visible with some renders having her jaw open. It's a neat touch that makes her a standout, that also complements her food theme. I find it to be super effective, especially with this render that still has me uneasy. A feeling that I can also say is felt from Foxy. Foxy the Pirate is the most interesting to me because while I did say Freddy's my overall favorite, Foxy takes the cake in terms of design. Intentional or not from Scott's end, I've always loved the fact that his torn parts can be viewed as either part of its pirate theme or the fact that he's out of order. Now would be a good time to mention how Foxy was the only character Scott struggled to make. The 3 main animals he considered to make were a beaver, a wolf, and a fox, with Scott eventually favoring the latter because a beaver would have been too on the nose about a certain other project. Even when deciding on a fox, Scott stated that Foxy was designed on a 24-hour drive. With a bumpy ride such as that, he would jokingly add that's probably why he looks the way he does. That wouldn't prove to be a problem though, because FOXY's way of adding horror just might be the scariest. He's the only animatronic to visibly move on camera, but not only that, the time he does is when he's running right to your office, creating a heart-racing quick-time event to shut the door in time. It's a wonderful surprise to catch new players, especially considering how FOXY was never shown in the trailer, instead showing Bonnie running down the hallway. Another character who was a surprise was Yellow Bear, or more commonly referred to as Golden Freddy. The name Golden Freddy was something made up by the fandom, however the exact origins of it are unknown. A popularization for it came about from one of Markiplier's Let's Play videos, referring to the yellow bear within the title as Golden Freddy, thus creating the name that tons of fans would go on to use, eventually becoming canon within future games. Golden Freddy, as I'll call him now, is a reskin of Freddy, except gold. Not really, he's just yellow with missing eyes. Golden Freddy is a perfect secret character, one of those hoaxes you'd see spread all over the internet, except he's real. Kinda. He's able to bring out the best type of fright due to 1, you not expecting him, and 2, the uncertainty of his existence. I failed to mention this in my gameplay section because I wanted to wait a little longer, but when you pull down the camera, he can still appear in your office even if both doors are closed, thus creating speculation if he's merely just a hallucination, which is further elevated through the fact that when inside the room, strange images start flashing. Overall, the Fazbear gang are great in terms of design that stand the test of time, and in my opinion, were never truly topped by future games in terms of finding that perfect balance of being child-friendly and scary. So, we have a standout gameplay with interesting environments and a wonderful set of characters that contributed to making FNAF as popular as it was, but that can only go so far. There's a reason FNAF was able to continue for 10 years, and all thanks to the story, or better known as the lore. You don't exactly think of it right away. However, the more you play, the more you question. Why exactly are these animatronics trying to harm me? Is there more to this phone guy? What are these newspapers? These are rare posters located on Cam 4B that give out massive lore reveals. Now, with FNAF being in such a different state, featuring wacky adventures with another version of Freddy helping out a child, and the general series constantly poking fun at itself, one has to wonder where it all started. 5 children were murdered. In order to prevent things from getting complicated, I'll only focus on this game's story based on the context of this title alone. East Hall has multiple newspapers on the wall, revealing the backstory of 5 kids who were reportedly lured into the back room of Freddy's, where a man dressed in the cartoon mascot took their lives. The suspect in question was later caught and charged, but the bodies were never found. Afterwards, the location was threatened with a shutdown by the health department, as reports of foul odor were coming from the animatronic mascots. Customers were also now complaining about the mascots now leaking out what seemed to be blood. With these issues rising up, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria faced a decline in revenue, thus announcing it would have its doors closed by year's end. Let's not kid ourselves here. It's pretty safe to assume what's happening here. The unnamed suspect at the time took the lives of 5 kids, stuffing them into the suits for the bodies to rot away, but because of that, the souls for the dead children found new life within the costumes. The implication of possessed robots is heavily implied through Bonnie and Chica's twitching animation, plus the sounds they make, which I'll play now. Secrets hidden throughout the game also support the idea that I'll be talking about later on. In the meantime, the animatronics are shown to enjoy roaming around the pizzeria, stuffing any employee within a Fazbear suit, possibly being a parallel to how they died. During your shifts, however, the phone guy actually addresses most of what I talked about. He explains the reason for the crew moving at all during the late hours is because they have a night mode that is required as to prevent any servos from locking up. And as for the suit situation, he says the animatronics will view us, or the player, as an endo without their costume on. Since that's against the rules at Freddy's, well, I'll let the phone guy explain.
They'll probably try to forcefully stuff you inside a Freddy Fazbear suit. Now, that wouldn't be so bad if the suits themselves weren't filled with cross beams, wires, and animatronic devices, especially around the facial area. So you can imagine how having your head forcibly pressed inside one of those could cause a bit of discomfort and death. The only parts of you that would likely see the light of day again would be your eyeballs and teeth that pop out the front of the mask. Yeah, they don't tell you these things when you sign up.
Note to self of where to safely store the FNAF economy. It isn't clear whether or not the phone guy is telling us the truth, or what he believes is the truth. All we're told that is that them moving around and putting people in suits is completely normal. That's the general narrative for FNAF you're able to reasonably put together and figure out. Where things get crazy is when you learn about the biggest mystery that plagued the series for the longest time. The bite of
87?
The bite of 87 was mentioned on the first night by FNAFTuber, which was an event that took place when the animatronics were able to walk around freely during the day before being switched to night mode only. It's said that one of the characters took a bite out of the customer, resulting in the loss of their frontal lobe. Getting to more the fandom side, theories would come out about who was responsible for the event. Some suspects at the time included FOXY and Freddy, FOXY being the obvious pick for many due to the overall appearance and the fact that he's out of order. While Freddy's reasoning was because on his face you could see handprints, as if someone was trying to push him away. Digging deeper within the fandom, theories for Golden Freddy being responsible for the bite also popped up due to the mysterious nature of him. All this because of one simple number, 87. Really goes to show how FNAF's story was perfectly told to make up a fandom. Yes, you can argue the story isn't that crazy when you get down to it, but really that didn't matter. Remember, this wasn't a story that was all in your face like I'd argue most indie horror games were in 2014, more so something you can discover. It was this choice of storytelling that made FNAF have such a strong lasting power, but that wasn't even the end of it. These story beats did take a little bit more effort to find than a normal playthrough. However, what about the harder to find secrets? Well, don't mind me talking about how putting 1987 in the custom night 100% won't lead to something bad. Oh hey, everything's fine. Is what I would be saying if I was playing a version of FNAF before 1.13. After that update, anyone going to custom night and putting that code were greeted with a... That isn't the only Golden Freddy related secret though, because there's a 1 in 10,000 chance on the game over screen that instead of going back to the title screen, you'll be treated to a... This is the harder to get secret as it's all by chance and something I've never personally got. It's so rare that within the 10 years of it being out, I was only able to find 2 videos that were able to document it. Another Golden Freddy related Easter egg is the "It's me" text. I've already gone over how they can appear when he's in your office, but they also have a chance of appearing randomly as a hallucination. In Pirate's Cove, there's also 1 in 100 chance that when FOXY leaves, the message of "out of order" will be replaced by "it's me." Lastly, there's the East Hall camera, where the text will replace the posters you'd usually see there. Within the context of this game, it isn't clear exactly who "me" is. Your best bet would be Golden Freddy, if not one of the ghost children. On that note, biggest surprise of 2024, FNAF might have dead kids. The East Hall camera has another Easter egg where instead of the "it's me" or normal posters, it will have crudely drawn faces of screaming and crying children. These drawings, I will say, have always unsettled me, so in a way, I'm glad they have a small chance of appearing. That is something I can also say to the rare Bonnie screen you can encounter when either loading up the game or getting sent back to the title screen. It's a still image of an eyeless Bonnie up close that will stay visible for roughly 9 seconds, after which his eyes will glow for half a second before then loading up the title screen like normal. There's also rare camera renders that I'll show now, along with a poster located in West Hall corner that has a slight chance of showing Freddy ripping his own head off. And on the subject of Freddy, who could forget? I once heard that pressing Freddy's nose can contribute into saving power, but I didn't want to do the research to see if that was true out of the fear of feeling what my dad feels when he looks at me. Disappointment. Oh yeah, pressing CD plus lets you skip the night. Yay, we're done with the secret section of the video. Yay! It should come no shock that when Five Nights at Freddy's was released, it became an instant hit. With a new fan base interested in this world and characters, theories of it were bound to happen. Every FNAF character in some way had their own major theory that I'd like to quickly go over. Freddy was rumored to be a girl due to his laugh. Being a slowed down version of what sounded like a female giggle. There's also the fact that when he's in the bathroom, he chooses to be within the girls' restroom. Now, was this an unintentional move on Scott's end, and really he's only there because that spot looked cool? Nah, he's hiding something. Chica's biggest theory going around was how she was the suit FNAFTuber was stuffed into. Night 4's phone call had us hearing the FNAFTuber getting to experience being unalived, so many point to Chica as the suit he was stuffed into due to one of her renders showing what was presumed to be human teeth. This was quickly disproven, however, because these were endo teeth that all the animatronics have. Foxy's biggest rumor going around was that he was a good guy the whole time. Many point to the fact that he never got in your face like the other animatronics, thus creating the theory that he was only checking up on the security guard, with the guard suffering from a heart attack because of Foxy's sudden visit. Help Wanted sure did put a rest to that theory. Golden Freddy didn't have the craziest one, as most theories were just saying he was a hallucination, which was the most accurate out of all these. Bonnie's, on the other hand, his big theory was I don't know, he could defy the universe logic. There really wasn't much for him, sorry Bonnie. If you wanted an even wilder theory than the ones I just talked about, then let me introduce you to one I found while making this video. Five Nights at Freddy's is the aftermath of the cabin in the woods ritual. This theory wasn't exactly all too popular, however, it's so dumb I need to share it. It explains the archetype for each FNAF character, with Foxy being the athlete, Freddy being the scholar, Bonnie being the fool, Chica being the whore, and Golden Freddy being the virgin. Moving from speculation to YouTube videos, the three most important videos I'd argue help boost the series to where it is today are Markiplier's Let's Play, the Living Tombstone song, and MatPat's theory. Markiplier's playthrough of FNAF is so quotable, with many iconic moments. My personal favorite is this frame for anyone wondering. The Living Tombstone song, while you could make the argument is corny, still holds a place in my heart for how nostalgic and catchy it is. The fact the video is called Five Nights at Freddy's Song makes it all the better because while it might not be the best FNAF song, it truly is the FNAF song. The one that more than deserved the placement as the credit music for the eventual movie adaptation. Then there's the game theory video. Wow, has this one aged the worst out of the three. The whole theory is based on an actual tragic real-world event, making it kinda uncomfortable to watch at times. However, it's still important due to the history behind it. Without it, FNAF theorizing would be nowhere near as popular as it is today. One of these videos I talked about was my introduction to the series. Naturally, it was 2014. My sister and I were both attending the same school, and after the day ended, I noticed she started playing a game on her phone. I remember her being so freaked out over what she called a purple rabbit, to which I thought to myself, wow, my sister sure is dumb for thinking rabbits were purple. When we both got home, I immediately rushed to the family computer to learn more about this supposed scary purple rabbit, eventually coming across Markiplier's video, and the rest is history. So, how do I feel about Five Nights at Freddy's 10 years later? If it wasn't more than obvious from this video, I still enjoy FNAF from many aspects, with its easy to understand gameplay yet challenging to master, character designs that are still the strongest the franchise has to offer, and a story that was fun to discover and talk about within the small community at the time. This would be the part where I introduced the ranking system, however, seeing how this is the only game I've covered so far, naturally it's gonna be first place, making it the best FNAF game. And the worst. For fun though, I think it'd be cool to do a best FNAF song title that I give to the one I think fits the game the best. There's only one rule to this system in that I'm not allowed to pick the same artist twice when it comes to picking a song for each game. Again, since this is the first video, I have nothing to worry about. Most would assume I'd pick the Living Tombstone FNAF 1 song due to how iconic it is. I'm not. I'm gonna be going with It's Me by Tryhard Ninja, and while you can make the argument that's technically not a FNAF 1 song due to the music showing FNAF 2 plus FNAF 3 footage, shut up, this is my video. It's Me is a FNAF 1 song, fight me. There you have it, a complete look at the original FNAF game. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to hit the stop recording button before I use up too much of my power. Is it too late to save the FNAF economy?